Hello, everybody. Hello, Sofa Squad. How are you? My name is Paul. Cha 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 cha. Cha 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 cha. Hey, everybody. How's it going? I hope y'all are doing well. Now, before we even get too deep into this, drop a one in the comment in the comment section if you can hear me, so that I know I'm not talking to myself, because this is very on brand for me to sit here and talk for a while, and turns out ain't nothing going on. Okay. Now, if you are watching on the replay or whatever, hey Cindy, thank you very much. Okay, Cindy here's us. Follow Case Tracks here's us. Hello. Kavita here's us. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sofa Squad. Everybody, give a warm round of applause for our lovely moderator and chief and staff or whatever you call it, Emily, a moderator slash friend slash OG Sofa Squad founder. Emily, I hope you are doing well. I hope you're warm up there. The weather here actually turned humid and warm today, and then very dreary and rainy. So if you are joining from the regular channel, make sure you're subbed to here, because this is a different channel. We go live over here, and this is kind of what we do over here. Now, yes, this is a live chat, so if you're used to watching my normal videos, this is going to be a different format. It's not edited, so I stop and talk to people, all that kind of stuff. If you're not into it, I totally get it. I will try to make an edited version of this video for the main channel. And it'll be just, reviewing the notes and that kind of stuff. And what we're going to be talking about in this live chat tonight is going to be Stolen Youth, which is a HULU documentary on the Sarah Lawrence, Larry Ray drama, cult case, whatever you want to call it. Whoa, Mama Gemma. Okay, I've got a lot to say about it. So that's what we'll do. We'll kind of talk about it. And what I'll do is, once we start talking, we're going to just chat for a minute while people gather and whatnot. It wouldn't be alive if you didn't say that. Now, I mean, can I get an amen on that? Okay. What I did is I made notes on my phone. Okay. As I was watching it, there's 3 episodes, and I was like just making notes as like talking points. So I don't want to say like spoiler alert, but spoiler alert. If it's something you haven't watched and you don't want to know anything about it, then yes, we're going to be talking about it from start to finish and looking at a couple of articles and stuff like that. But it's not like it's a fiction show. I mean, it's a real case with real people's lives. You know what I'm saying? And this is an older case. I actually made videos on this. I mean, I would say years ago at this point. And I don't even know. I mean, like, they could have been like really long videos on it. The case is incredibly complicated, y'all. Okay. It is very layered. It goes very deep. And so I'll just say that. So there's no way you could cover it really in one documentary. And so for what they had to do, I felt like it was good. So that being said, what this to me focused on is it focused on like the students' experiences. The story of Larry, who's like the leader, if you will, that part is just like complicated. Okay. When you go into the rabbit hole of like this whole fixation he had with this Bernie dude and the chief of police dude and like the whole thing in his history, I mean, there's an entire podcast dedicated to just that. Okay. So there's that. Okay. Now, what we will do is we're going to start off with, well, first of all, we'll go over a couple of things. Well, I'm going to show in a second the screen from Hulu that gives a quick, like 60-second bam. This is what this is. Okay. We're also going to look at Sarah Lawrence's homepage. That's the college, just so you get a vibe of the school, because these are 2 very important things that you're going to be like, huh? How did this what? Now I will say this. And let me see if I can pull it up real quick, just so I can show y'all too. Ezra, Sarah Lawrence. Let's see here. Yep. Let's do this. I'm just pulling up this this article. I was hoping to find this. Let's see. Sarah Lawrence, New Yorker magazine. I'll have to find this later. I wanted to show this to you. Maybe it's the cut. Here it is. Here it is. Okay. So I was wanting to find this Ezra Marcus, which is one of the people that is in the documentary. Um, this is how I was introduced to this case, was this article, I believe. But I'll show you this. We are not going to do a deep dive into the case because you really can't, but I will give you a very quick overview of it so that you know like what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Um, that being said, so I will say, and I don't even know if like this is a trigger warning or whatever, but so just remember that like it's real people we're talking about. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this, okay? Y'all, there was 1,000 times I wanted to come to that television and be like, "What are you doing?" Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, "W- you know," but I was like, "These are real people. They are were affected by this. They're still out there. So, you know, I'm basically just be gentle. Is what I'm trying to say. Because some of it you're like, now, before we get into it, also one of the most interesting aspects of the documentary to me was number one, finally seeing the faces of these victims and the former cult followers, whatever you want to call them, because I'd only read about them and whatnot. And I was like, oh, wow. But also, the documentary does such an amazing job at showing the transition of one of the members going from, like, I would say one of the most extreme to questioning her reality to being out of it. And I've never seen that, for me at least, I've never seen that depicted in like cult members where they are almost like going through a deprogramming. And so it made me have more empathy for her, if that makes sense. Because she was one of the ones that at times I wanted to be like, girl, somebody go and get her. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you what? You know, it just made you just want to go crazy. Um, so I love that part about this documentary. So, anyways, okay, let's go ahead and get started. So again, thank you everybody for joining. I do appreciate it. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing these Netflix docs. And just spoiler alert, next Saturday we're going to be doing Mother of God. I think that's the name of it. We'll look at it a little bit later, but we had voted on it last week or whatever. And we decided we would do this one first this Saturday, and then the next one, Mother of God, I think that's the name of it, for next Saturday. So just know that I'll do a post on it. That's what we'll be talking about if you want to watch it. Kind of go from there. So, anyways, let me share the screen. Let's see, present. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the HULU page, just a landing page, so that you know we all are kind of on the same page here. Okay, so we're going to share screen. We're going to share screen. We're going to present. We're going to watch Stolen Youth. We're not going to watch it, but Lord knows they'll flag this. They're very big on flagging these now. Okay, so you see what I see. So this is the documentary HULU Stolen Youth Inside the Cult at Sarah Lawrence. A group of bright Sarah Lawrence college students fall under the dark influence. Let's click more. Of a friend's father, Larry Ray. With unprecedented access to the survivors who live with Ray, the film follows the cult from its origins to its still unfolding aftermath. Pardon me. So that's what we're watching. Now let's go over to, and let me come back over to you. Where are we at? Let's see. Share, present. Share screen. And now let's go to Sarah Lawrence. Now, this is the college, Sarah Lawrence. And this is where this took place at. This is a very small, a very, you know, it's a vibe, right? So it says Sarah Lawrence College, connecting passions, creating futures. I'm not going to read all this. We're going to read the first sentence of each of it. But their mission is at Sarah Lawrence College. Our mission is to graduate world citizens who are diverse in every definition of the word, who take intellectual and creative risk, who cross disciplinary boundaries, and who are able to sustain exceptional academic discipline within a framework of humanistic values and concern for community. Now, their value, going down a little bit further, says for creative and intellectually motivated students who want to make their mark in the world, Sarah Lawrence offers a unique approach to learning and teaching designed to produce capable, confident, creative 21st century citizens with the imagination, drive, and skills to make a difference in their own and others' lives. So we're going to stop sharing those. We're going to go boom. We're going to go boom. and we're going to go boom on that. And then we're going to come back to y'all, which you are right here. Okay. So that's just a couple of things there. Okay. Now, let's very quickly just talk about, let's call it a layman's terms what this case is about, okay? So you have Sarah Lawrence College, right? You have a group of friends, they move there. Now, these are like kids, and I say kids, young adults, you know what I'm saying? I mean, think of like freshman year college, that age, right? You have this group of students who are all moving there and discovering themselves. And so they form these friendships, so on and so forth. Then they basically all end up, and I think it's called solemn. Let me look it up real quick. Solemn 9 or something like that. They basically move to this. I don't want to call it a dorm, but like this housing that makes it sound like the way they described it is it was like on the edge of like where security goes. So essentially they were like, you know what, really didn't have security. No one's going to bother you over here. You're kind of in the woods. No one's going to be turning you in for noise, that type of thing. So you kind of felt like you were off in the cut. You know what I mean? To basically put it. So there's that. There's the vibe. Okay. So one of the girls who lives there, Talia is what she goes by. Her father, his name is Larry, he is in prison, and she's basically gassing all her friends up, gassing Larry up, her dad, to all her friends and talking about he's wrongly convicted, but he's been completely, wronged and whatnot. We'll talk about her towards the end. Long story short, he's going to be getting out. Now, remember, this is kind of like this, open-minded, more like liberal arts, kind of like a collegey vibe. So they're going to be like, hey, this dude's getting out of prison. We're going to be open-minded, so on and so forth. And so the segue is there for him to come and like sleep on the sofa, kind of a situation. And that's the first thing that's like, what? So long story short, he comes, and the way the kids describe it is it was never like, well, dad's just moving in here. It almost just kind of happened. You know what I'm saying? And there was only 2 or 3 of these kids there in the friend group. And one of them, this girl named Raven, that was like, yeah, this is weird. You know what I'm saying? But in the beginning, nothing was really like that because he was making them food, he was cleaning up, it was whatever. Well, he slowly starts to befriend the group of friends, his daughter's friends. And the first one is Isabella. She is a main character in this. We will talk about it. And again, we're still in this little overview of the case right now. We'll get into the specific notes here in a minute about like each episode. So Isabella is like the main one, and she has a lot of issues. And here's the thing: at that age, you're discovering yourself, you're figuring things out and whatnot. So, there's that. Keep that in mind. But what Larry and people like Larry are good at is finding their weaknesses, finding their trauma, and exploiting it. And he does just this with Isabella. And come here. And we got a visitor. Hey, you guys! I don't trust this Larry guy. He's not good. So he does this with Isabella. And, he starts having these conversations. And first of all, Larry has told all these kids, like, I was in this crazy military stuff, and I know Gorbachev and all these people. And he does know somehow these really, important people, but he kind of gasses it up for, you know what I'm saying? Like how much he really knows them type thing. Like he would be the master at like getting in a photograph with somebody important and then making up a story behind it. Okay. But the dude has money, you know what I mean? Like he knows how to walk the walk, talk the talk, but he's also a severe con artist. Okay. So long story short, this is going on. So what will happen is he'll isolate a friend, start talking to them about life. He hones in on them, tells them what they want to hear, and kind of converts them. And when he does that, like he starts sleeping in Isabella's room. And this is where things start to get like, but then he's doing this one by one to these groups of friends. And so the more he does it, these people literally are like, Larry's God. Like he saved me from myself. Okay. And like I said, there's only 2 or 3 of them that are like, hello. And one of them being Raven, who the whole time she's like, y'all, this no. So very quickly there's that. So long story short, he ends up doing this. He ends up getting the kids to all go live in this apartment with him in the city. He converts them all to think that he is the best thing since sliced bread, and he is exploiting them. He's extorting them. He's doing, SA stuff to them. And I mean, you're talking about a raging narcissist. Okay. And this just goes on and on. He moves them down. Actually, they were living in Pinehurst, about an hour away from here at one point, doing crazy stuff to this house. One of the kids there, he has both his sisters involved in it. And I mean, it gets insane. So this happens slowly. They start to realize, wait, this is, whatever. They get out of it. And he ends up getting convicted, and so do other people. Okay, that's the nuts and bolts of it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get into the nitty gritty of it, and we're going to do that by me looking at my notes. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to refer to them, and it will of course trigger me to make conversation. So if you've seen this, you're going to be like, it'll cause you to be like, oh yeah, or whatever. I will stop from time to time because I'm dying to see what y'all have to say about it. But I'm also just going to try and keep the flow going with my notes, so I don't like annoy people by just stopping every 5 seconds. So, and the way I did the notes is right here on the phone. See, yeah, he's not lying, you guys. They're right there. Roscoe, he likes to tell all my secrets. And I just started from the very beginning. So we're just going to start from the very beginning. So Santos, I wrote. Santos, bless his heart, is one of the main characters in this. Okay. Now he is the one who has 2 sisters, Felicia, and I cannot remember the other girl's name. I'll have it somewhere in here. But right now I can't remember it off the top of my head. He ends up getting his 2 sisters involved. Felicia being the one that, I mean, y'all, she goes off the deep end. Okay. This man destroyed this family. Okay. He extorts Santos for so much money. It's insane. But Santos is telling a lot of the story through his eyes. Now you can also see that Santos is very unsure of himself, and probably, I would imagine, still is, because once you've gone down this path, I mean, you would almost question your judgment. You know what I'm saying? Like, no shade to them, but I mean, it's a thing in recovery from this, I guess. So Santos. So freshman year, fall 2009. So this starts off 2009. Sarah Lawrence, group of kids all bomb. We talked about that. Slonim Woods, neural supervision. We talked about that. Santos. Natalia wanted to be a lawyer. Okay, so this is the daughter. Natalia, his daughter, she wanted to be a lawyer to help people like her dad. Really talked up her dad a lot, saying it was wrong. He was in jail, and soon he was getting out of jail, and they were cool for him to crash on the couch. But it just kind of turned into him being there all the time. It was just kind of happened. Okay, so we talked about that. Again, I'm just going through the notes here. Larry shows up and tells stories of being in the CIA, and the kids are transfixed, and his stories are wild, and he seems to have proof. And this is the thing where, I mean, you got to remember, these are people starting off in life, and you have this dude, that comes in and has these wild, crazy stories and these, seemingly major insights into life and figuring your stuff out. You know what it reminded me of? If you follow Charles Manson stuff and listen to the way that they described him talking to him, a lot of the girls in the cult and people like that, where it was like he was speaking to my soul and all that same type thing, y'all, with these kids talking about like he woke me up, he found these answers. And you're watching it, or I'm watching, I'm speaking for everybody, but for myself, I'm watching this and listening to these kids talk that way. And I'm like, this is exactly what the girls said that Manson did with them. It's so sad. So anyways, okay. Bernie Carrick is a name brought up by Larry. This was the man that Larry said for revenge against him because he exposed him. Okay. So Bernie Carrick, I think he was like a former police chief or chief of police or something like that. Literally, Larry is convinced that this man is out to get him. Larry was very good friends with him at one point. I'm talking like this, okay, which tells you a lot, right? And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Larry goes to him and is like, I'm getting indicted. The FBI's contacting me. You need to call them. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. Like, you're going to have to ride this out. Well, this makes Larry basically like fixated on This dude is out to get me. And I'm talking, this is a theme throughout the rest of this case, y'all, where he is completely convincing everybody that this dude has contacted their families, that this dude is trying to kill all of them, to poison all of them. Insane stuff. Now, let me also add this as a precursor to this. There is definitely, well, and they even talk about how he was feeding them Adderall and stuff. There is a complete vibe of them being tweaked out and paranoid throughout this whole thing. Because like this right here with what he's talking about like, oh, Bernie's trying to, to poison us and do all this crazy stuff. I mean, y'all, it literally seems like a tweaked out induced type thing. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So he starts sitting the kids down and having these lectures and introducing them to his philosophy quest. This is the name of it. It's very Twin Flamesy, very Twin Flamesy. It's like, this is his thing that he calls it, the philosophy quest. Wait, hold on. Roscoe wants to get down. Hold on. For potential. Philosophy quest for potential. Basically, the kids can be all they want to be, but they must be reprogrammed, and he can do this. So this is where you see them talking. And again, you're kind of listening to the victims walk you through how they arrived at where they did. Now, and when I say saving grace, I'm not talking about saving grace, but like the only thing that makes me say with some of them, like, okay, is the fact that they were young. And when I say so young, I'm not talking about like obviously 10 or 12, but I'm like, yeah, these were really sheltered kids. And this dude honestly saw them coming from a mile away. I mean, this was like nothing to him. This is child's play to him. He knew how to work them. The whole Santos and his family, he saw them coming. I'm talking y'all from 10 miles away. Okay. I ravaged that family. Okay. So Larry helps Isabella first. We briefly discussed this. She is described as a social recluse with only Natalia as a friend. Remember, Natalia is Larry's daughter. He starts a relationship with her, tells her mom that she's not coming home for Christmas because she was SA'd when she was younger. Now, this is one of the things, and this is where I watched Larry do his magic on people. So Larry starts this relationship with Isabella. She blossoms, and everybody's like, Isabella was like walking around the house with her head up, and she had this newfound confidence and all this stuff. Well, Christmas time comes and they were talking to the mom, and the mom's like, I get this call from this guy, and he's like, your daughter's not coming home for Christmas. And he gets on the phone and he's like, she'll take her own life if she comes home because this happened to her before. The mom had her own issues with Isabella when she was growing up. And so he hones in on that and starts doing the same thing to the mom of, look, you might have been a bad mother then. You might have let things happen to Isabella then, but you're not that now. But we've got to get through this now because you don't want a dead kid in your house. I mean, y'all, and you're like, this guy, there's zero, like, the dude does not care. Okay. He has zero, pardon me. Like, he just does not care about anybody, right? I mean, he can find your jugular and go in for it. And from the last of the show, she still hasn't ever talked to her mother. Now, she might have now that, whatever happened, but let's keep going. Okay. He is really able to hone in on the mother's issues and says, look, you were a bad mother, but I just want to, I'm just reading my notes. I know I just said this. Do what you can do to help her now. He really knows how to exploit people's weaknesses. So this is, what we just went over. Okay, he slowly converts these kids over to him. Larry has an apartment where he lets the kids stay and gets them to help him renovate it. Now, he has this apartment, but it's not his. And they talked to this dude who was like the owner of it or whatever. It was like, yeah, I went from letting Larry sleep on my sofa to I moved out of the apartment because he just took it over and he has like all these college kids here. And this is where you start seeing the apartment. And I'm like, yeah, this is really tweaky. Like, there's just stuff everywhere. I mean, you know what I mean? Like everywhere. And they're like, oh, well, this is where we do this. And it's like, y'all, and they don't really sleep. Okay. And they are doing these renovations, and this begins the part of Larry exploiting the kids. Number one, forced labor, right? It's just like he's getting these kids to do all this crazy stuff. Number two, he's getting all this crazy equipment in there, and he'll begin, and I'm sure I say this in my notes, I'm going off here before I get to it, but we're just going to go on the tangent right now. So he'll get all these like crazy expensive tools in there, and then he'll convince mainly Santos, because Santos is also dating Larry's daughter, Talia. So he's getting the brunt of this. But one tactic that Larry will use is he's like, hey, look, you damaged the property. Now, his version of damage the property could be you scratched a dish, if you really did, right? Um, well, he'll charge you for it, but he'll do this weird thing of like he'll make you admit to it and like have a group thing where you're in front of everybody and do this weird stuff. Well, he does this with Santos to the tune of $60,000, and he gets his friends and family to pay it. That's y'all, that part. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I was like, this man has broken this boy down. But again, when you're watching that, you're like, you know, I mean, you're kind of speechless, because you're just like, I mean, and again, that's what I'm saying. He took Santos and his family, y'all. He took that family to the cleaners. Again, he saw him coming from a mile away. Um, okay, so okay, so now let's move on to my notes. So we're going to talk about Dan. Now, Dan has written a book from his perspective. I don't know if I want to read it just because I've gone so much into this and seeing this. I'm like, I don't know if I need to see another perspective. So that being said, this is Dan who has questions. No, Dan who questions his own sexuality is groomed by Larry, and Larry essentially offers Isabella to him. Larry was making him and Isabella have relations, let's say, and they would have threesomes. Now, another thing that they did not touch on in this documentary is to the degree that that was going on. Like Larry was like really using Isabella as like this toy to throw at Dan. And even he was doing these, he would have these sessions and make them do stuff together. And then even when they were like out of the country for internships or something like that, they didn't go over this in the documentary, but I just know it from the case that I've gone over before. He was having them do it over Zoom. And you're just like, and again, to put faces with this, well, Dan's talking about one night he was sleeping on the couch and Isabella came out and, kind of pleasured him or whatever. And he was like, I just got the feeling that like, this is the beginning, how it started, that Larry just sent her out. Well, as you watch more and more and get to know it, I'm like, oh, obviously that's what he did. Now, one thing to keep in the back of your mind as we talk about this, and especially if you've watched it, I'm very curious to know what you think, is because Isabella, almost like your feelings on Isabella, because yes, she has gotten in trouble for her role in this, and essentially, do you feel like she should have been in trouble? Do you feel like she's a victim or a co-conspirator? Because she was treated like a co-conspirator, and she was drinking his Kool-Aid till the very last second. Okay. I don't even know if she's truly changed her stance, but I mean, he was God to her. Okay. You could say anything he said, it was the Bible. Okay. So let's keep going. They started reorganizing the apartment, and he would delve out Adderall. The apartment was cramped. He starts accusing them of damaging property, such as pots and pans. This is what we talked about a minute ago. Pardon me. Santos, because he was dating Larry's daughter, was the focal point of a lot of Larry's abuse. Larry accused him of damaging so many things, 50 grand worth, and Larry wanted money, so Santos started getting his parents and everyone he knew to loan him money. And another thing Larry would do with this is he would be like if he was like, what did you do? It would be like this, like, Roscoe, what did you do? And Roscoe's like, I haven't done anything. It's like, you're lying. You need to speak your truth. Well, he would get these kids to the point that they would make stuff up because he would keep them up for like 24 hours doing this. And you just get to the point where you're like, I'll just make something up to make it go away, kind of a thing. Well, with Santos and the whole damaging the apartment, he would make Santos do these massive reports of what he damaged and like how much it was, what he owed him. And Santos is like, I finally got to the point where I just wrote a list of everything I could have come into contact with, which was literally everything in the apartment. And it was like, I forget what the number was. It was like either $57,000 or $67,000. It was a ton of money, but that's what he was doing. Like he pushed them to that level. Okay. Let's keep going. Claudia sends an open letter to Dean. Oh, okay. So Claudia sends an open letter to Dean and nothing is done. I cannot remember. So Claudia, okay, so let's talk about Claudia for a second. Claudia is another one of the kids in the group that she becomes like one of the followers. He exploits her, like she ends up doing like she's becomes a lady of the night. They take all the money from her, and I'm talking y'all over $1 million. Okay, like an insane amount of money. They make up a website about her saying that she poisoned everybody. Crazy, like paranoid schizophrenic type stuff. Okay. So the open letter to the dean at one point, that's what it was. Everybody was like, she does this open letter talking about she, has tried to poison people. She's done this, she's done that. And we're like, why, where is this coming from? What did you do? Well, he would make you convinced that you tried to like hurt him or poison him. And he would literally, in my opinion, what he would do is he would keep you up, sleep deprivation, pumping you with Adderall, and like to make it go away, you would just be like, well, maybe I did forget that I put this in whatever I cooked or something. Okay. Something. And wait, hold on. I just caught this real quick. Old Soul says, I was shocked how much money she was making. I was too, Old Soul. When they showed the books for her, I was like, girl. And the sad thing is, having to hand it all over to Larry and Isabella, because Isabella was running over there taking the money too with Larry. Please hold. I'm trying to get rid of my yawns. Okay. So episode 2. So that was all my notes from episode 1. Okay. Let's go to episode 2. Bernie, and I'm saying the name wrong, Bernie Carrick, former NYPD police commissioner. This is the dude I was talking about that he was friends with, and he wanted him to go and help him get out of trouble. But he was like, no, dude, like, I can't do that. And then Larry was convinced that he was like after him. Okay. This is very close with Larry. Basically they would be on the phone all throughout the day, seeing each other every day, all this. But found out he never knew him. And this is what he's talking about. He's like, I thought I knew this guy, but I didn't know him at all. It was like this completely fake persona. Calls saying the FBI wants to indict him, and he calls calls him looking for help. He's accused of being involved in organized crime. He loses everything. This is Larry. He loses everything over this, including the children. He will blame this on his friend. Larry takes over the apartment from the owner, Lee Chen. This is what I was talking about with the apartment and whatnot. Something confesses. He tells everyone what they can do for hours. So, recorded confessions. Okay, so Larry will record these confessions. Now, another thing that's fascinating with this case, and I just didn't realize this until watching this, was how much documented evidence there was of audio recordings and video recordings. And I'm like, what were they thinking? Like, why would you record this? Well, I know. Well, here's why. He's doing it because he's convinced everybody's trying to get him. So he thinks he's doing these recordings. So, for example, with Claudia, they go over to her house one night to extort money out of her. And you can tell either she's on something, because she's like this. She's like, no one's making me record this. No one threatened me. And you honestly just want to hug her and just save her. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, oh my God, this poor girl. And she's talking about she tried to poison them and do all this crazy stuff. And even once Larry's locked up, Isabella's still talking about these are all our medical devices. We could have really made something with ourselves if we hadn't been poisoned. And I'm like, what? 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 Okay. So let me just keep going here before I go off on another tangent. Okay, so the recorded confessions, he tells everyone what to think and what to do for hours. He accused kids of meeting with Bernard. Santos makes up an entire confession about where and why are talking to cops. So this is one thing. So when Santos is talking, he literally at one point makes up this whole thing that he worked with the cops and this Bernie dude, the former NYPD police commissioner dude, to try and bust him, and he wore a wire. And he made it all up just to get Larry to like shut up and leave him alone, because it's like, what what do you like? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? There's nothing I can do or say. I'm just gonna start making stuff up. And it's almost like another fascinating look into like false confessions. You know what I mean? When people talk about, please hold, how when somebody makes a false confession like that, they didn't think they would ever be able to leave the room. They didn't think it would ever get out. So they're like, okay, I'm just going to say this and make it go away. And it doesn't. They confess. Almost like that type thing. So there's that. Okay. Here we go. Now this one right here we're about to talk about, y'all. This right here is where it gets real turned up. I know you're thinking Paul was already turned up. This is turned up. Okay. So Santos has an older sister, okay? She's very smart. She's in med school to be, I think, a psychiatrist. He's like, you could really, benefit from talking to Larry. He's really helped me out. Okay, so she comes, meets them, falls in love instantly with Larry, and they'll describe it as love at first sight, her and Larry. She loses everything to this man, and I'm talking everything. Med school, internship, med license, family, sanity, everything she loses to him. They show a scene where she basically out of the blue is convinced that the NYPD commissioner Bernie is going to kill her. She drains their parents' funds to the tune of $300,000. So this is in help with Larry to help save her. And basically, I think that was also in addition to the money from Santos as well. So at one point, there's this phone call, and she's like crying, like, oh, they're gonna kill me. She's living in California, Larry's in New York. Basically, he's like, we need to get you out of there. We need to get you here. He sends someone to accompany her from California to New York, and she gets there. I mean, y'all, this girl is a hot mess. They show her recorded, and she's like, my parents sent these people to kill me. And when you listen to her talking and the story that she's saying, literally you can sit there and it is the most out there story that you're like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, what are you talking about, girl? You know what I'm saying? Like, anyone could hear it and know that doesn't make sense. But then later on, we learn, she's like, I was working 12-hour days. The only person I was talking to was Larry. You hear the game he did, and sucking her into the Larry world. And just somehow he could convince these people of things, because what it was is he wanted her in New York to control her under his thumb. And now, so spoiler alert, because this is later, but I have to say it so that you know what we're entering into. Okay, so in the very end, when she's talking, and she does get better, and this is after he's convicted and all this type of stuff, and she's talking about the relationship, because basically she moves out there, and you're learning through little tidbits of this documentary that like Isabella was like wanted to tell everybody about her and Larry's relationship, and he's like, we don't have a relationship. I guess he was touting it more as like he was helping her. And it was this weird father-daughter relationship. Creepy, yeah. Pardon me, completely creepy. Well, Felicia is saying when she flew out there and gets there, she's like, imagine you're getting somewhere and your boyfriend sleeps in bed with this girl, Isabella. And Isabella, I might throw up a little bit over this. Isabella likes to sleep with her hand on, what's his name? Uh, Larry's, you know what? And he basically, this is such a narcissistic thing, is telling, what's her name? Felicia, well, you're a progressive woman. Why would that bother you? Like, she's just more comfortable like that. You sleep on this side and she sleeps here and she's going to put her hand there. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I was like, I mean, my mouth hit the floor over that. I was like, that is so creepy. First of all, this is your daughter's friend in college, okay? It was so gross, right? And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, so you get to New York and this is what you're introduced to? And of course he's gaslighting it. You know what I mean? Like, well, you should, what's wrong with you that you're not cool with this? That's the thing, like these narcissistic, like whatever the hell he has, because I think he's way beyond that. Their personality types, the things that they will try and convince people of, there is no limit to it. Okay. There's no, like, even this where I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, you actually are going to try and make this sound like normal? No, absolutely no. And then it's like, I guess for Isabella, I'm thinking, what, she had to be jealous of Felicia. I mean, what is she thinking? So, anyways, just keep that in mind because they don't tell you this till the very end of the doc. And my whole thought process, I'm like, well, what's the vibe going on if she's moved out here and her and Larry are a thing and they fell in love at first sight? How does this play out? And then you find at the very end that they're sharing this bed, and it's like, I was like, yo, I am Roscoe, honey. What do you want? You keep getting up and down, up and down. What do you want, buddy? Go on. Roscoe's just beside himself, right? He thinks it's so gross too. Hold on, Isabel was his friend. Isn't this for you? Yeah, Cindy. So, okay, so I'm just really quickly looking at the comments. Cindy says Isabella was his first victim. Isn't this like 4 years in? Yeah, it was something like this was several years into it. Oh yeah, I was listening. How to show me? I know, right? Um, Period says, "Oh my God, last week I was in a random chat on one of my regular channels, and no joke, someone in the comment section started talking about twin flames, like as if they're." I was like, "Heck no!" Oh my gosh, I know, right? And Old Soul says that now this is hold on, I'm gonna put this up so we can see it real quick. Old Soul says, did you see the psychology report from the court where it said Larry literally can't be evaluated? Wow. Yes, this was another thing to keep in mind. They're like, this dude is so manipulative, it's off the charts. He can control any situation he's in, he can manipulate anything and everybody. We can't even evaluate this man. Okay, that's how off the hook he is. So that's what you're dealing with. So put up a sheltered, broken 19-year-old against that and do the math on that. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. And hold on one second, y'all. Okay. Um, so let me keep reading here. Okay, where we go to? So Santos, yes. Okay, so then Dan. Remember Dan who I was talking about, who Dan questioned if he was like gay or straight or whatever? Okay. So then there's this scene where he's showing like him doing stuff to Dan, and he basically beats Dan. He does creepy stuff to his, male member. Um, and this is like Dan's breaking point. And like, where he's just like, what am I doing? And this is where Dan breaks off. And he basically is like, I went to school, I signed up for all these classes, all this extra stuff. I got 2 jobs. And he's like, I just stayed gone and just didn't go back off and basically shut Larry off. Yeah, because they showed Larry with these pliers holding his tongue, and like making him do this stuff. And it was just so demeaning, Roscoe. It was so demeaning. I mean, absolutely demeaning. And so they start showing the process of the kids waking up, some of them that were fortunate enough to, and like how that happened, um, and what took place and whatnot. And so that was kind of like Dan's breaking point with that. Now, remember, Dan is the one that also wrote a book. From his perspective of it, I can't remember what the name of. I think it's like Slalom 9 or something like that. But that's what it is. So, anyways, okay, so where are we at? Santos is very smart. Okay, shots are off. Santos is on medical leave from school. Okay, so then Santos, back to him. Okay, wait, let me tell this. Okay, wait, hold on, y'all. Okay, sorry. Roscoe needs to be attended to. He either needs food or water or something. He's up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay, so where are we at? Okay, so Santos is on medical leave or something like that from school, and they show him at one point. And now remember, both his sisters are in this situation with him. Okay, and Santos and his sisters. So keep this in mind. Dan's gone away. He got out of it. You know what I'm saying? So people are dropping off and it's getting more rigid and more rigid, and they're staying in this apartment and they're just constantly, you know, we have to keep you up all night. Santos, what have you done? What have you done? So Santos on medical leave. He's only left with Larry. His mental health goes way downhill. They moved to Pinehurst, very close where I'm at. More people leave. Claudia starts escorting. Okay, so another aspect I want to talk about before we get into more of the notes is, let me take a sip of this. They're showing the mental breakdown of his sister Felicia, who is the significant other of Larry, Santos's older sister. Y'all, it's next level. I'm talking, this is a person who was moments away from being a medical doctor, okay? And you're seeing this person reduced to just this blubbering mess of a human being. And she'll say at the end, she was like, there was nothing left of me, like zero left of me. Like it was all Larry. It was all Larry. And you can see that. You see her descent and you see the dynamics of Santos with her and the other sister with her. And I mean, the way Larry turned them against each other, and then obviously, against her own parents and stuff, and probably got pleasure out of this, I mean, but it was so, I mean, the way she physically changed, and this is an example that she said, and y'all, for the life of me, I cannot remember her nationality right now. I cannot remember. And the only reason it's important is because she said, in fill in the blank, having long, beautiful hair is important. And she was like, and she has long, beautiful hair normally. And she's like, when I saw pictures of my hair or whatever, and I mean, y'all, it was just like a rat's nest. I mean, she was so unkempt in comparison to how she normally looked. Dominican. Okay. Thank you, Aaron. That was just the shock of it, because you see pictures before and then after. She's this beautiful, strikingly beautiful woman. But while she's with Larry, I mean, she just physically looked, I mean, I can't describe it. I can't describe it. It was like, but her hair is one thing. So like, it was almost like that was just this, it was very symbolic, you know what I'm saying, of like what he did, mentally, physically, spiritually, the whole nine yards. Okay, so let's keep going through these notes. Okay, it says Larry. So then they start to get into the tea of it all, if you will. Okay, Larry Ray is not his real name. Shocker. Was never in the Marines. Shocker. People start investigating. Claudia was forking over millions. So this is when this Ezra person, I'll show you the article later for those that want to read it. This starts coming out. Who is this Larry guy? Let's start investigating him. He was in the Marines. He's this big important person. Well, no, he wasn't in the Marines. You know what I mean? So all these secrets come out. And that's where what's weird about this And especially with people like Larry, because if you've dealt with, this is my take on it. If you've dealt with, and again, if you find, I ain't no doctor, I ain't none of that fancy stuff, so I don't know. Narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, any of that little spectrum of things. If you've dealt with those people, Larry seems like he is on steroids version of that times a bazillion. Okay. Um, so that being said, it's very common for people who are like narcissists, stuff like that, to lie and embellish. And Larry does that, but Larry also has this side where he does know a lot of these people he talks about. He does know a lot of these important people. So I can see where people would buy a lot of his BS because he is able to, kind of play it off like, well, yeah, here's a picture of me with so and so. You know what I mean? Like it's weird how he was able to do that. And then he also had money. And then as you learn, a lot of the money is obviously coming from extortion. So he's getting thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month from Claudia, who's, working the streets, basically, not literally working the streets because she's a little bit more of a high end call girl, if you will. Not trying to say that one's lesser or whatever than the other. But I'm just saying she's getting a lot of money for what she's doing. So she seems to have like found a niche in that. And I don't think I don't think she was walking the streets is what I'm getting at. So, then they start to realize they're in a cult. Some of the people remaining, because remember, people have left. So you're talking about Santos and these, few people left. Isabella has never wavered. Okay. Larry could tell you that the sky is green and 100% she's on board. Absolutely it is. And she's angry at you if you say no. Okay. And this is the difference that I see with her. And one person said at the very end, where they were like, seeing a person who had such a good moral compass become like so evil, you know, because with Isabella, I got to the point where I was like, I am having a hard time differentiating her and Larry. You know what I'm saying? Like with her, the mimicking that she's doing of him. I mean, this is another Larry. So please hold. Okay, so Claudia leaves after articles come out. So some articles come out, and I believe this is the New Yorker and whatnot, and Claudia leaves. Now, she's not out from underneath their grasp because they will still extort her. Larry is evicted from the apartment. He and the remaining cult moved to New Jersey. So the apartment was the one that they were in. The guy said, he was laying on my sofa, and then he took it over. So Isabella doubles down. We just talked about that. Okay, so then the last part. So Larry is, arrested. He's taken in. So Isabella and Felicia are off on their own. These are the last two people. So Isabella and Felicia tell their story. They show off the house. It seems like a tweaked out nightmare. I'm just reading my notes. Felicia says she hasn't worked as a doctor since 2012. They have all this medical stuff. So they're showing you the house. And again, it's Felicia and Claudia. Now, remember, so these are two people who are in this weird, like, okay, what's going on situation with Larry. So Isabella's showing you the house, and she's like, and this is all of our medical stuff from when we were poisoned. And she talks about this. Being poisoned is a huge talking point in this because they are convinced, and they will have people, Claudia, they make all these videos of her confessing to trying to poison them. He makes up the website after website of her. Like it's literally like, it's a form of abuse of her confessing to poisoning them. And so Isabella's just spouting this stuff out. And I'm like, what is up with y'all being convinced that you're all poisoned? And all of them think that their parents had something to do with it through this Bernie guy. It's the most twisted thing you have ever heard. Okay. It's so far out there. Mm. Okay, and let me put this up because Dominique, I just saw this in the chat and we have to talk about this. Dominique says they are just digging up the yard over and over again. Y'all, I'm over here complaining about the housework that I have. Y'all ain't seen nothing. So Larry okay, so first of all, with the Pinehurst house, they move here and he's like fixing up for his dad, and then they're doing something in the New Jersey house, and all I'm thinking of, I'm like, God bless their neighbors. God bless their neighbors. This is what HOA is for. Okay, for this exact thing. Okay, so he'll be like, oh, we have to dig the yard up because the grass was laid improperly. And if it is laid incorrectly again, which he would say it is, he makes them dig it right back up again. Okay, so he's basically forcing them to redo it all. But then it's like they never accomplish anything, and they'll show him going off like, I want all this done today. And then they show you the house, and it's like just clusters of little things everywhere, and what's her name? Felicia's like talking about like all the work they've done in the house and stuff and working around the clock. And it's like, yeah, and they pulled up RJB says they pulled up all the floors too. And it's like, you know, oh my gosh, we had to pull the carpet up because there's all this black mold and this and that and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, what is going on with this? Number one, inability to accept just the reality of the situation. Like, okay, so we're going to redo the house, whatever they're going to do. That's fine. That's dandy, whatever. So then that's not fine. So they have to redo that. It's almost like Larry just can't stop. There's no stopping. He has to constantly manipulate to do whatever. So it's completely bizarre. Okay, now let's keep going here. They tell their story, they show off the daughter. Okay, so Felicia and Isabella stop living together. So at one point, and I can't remember, I think it was Felicia told Isabella that her attorney was basically like, you know what, I think that the lawyer's like, girl, you know what, you need to not be living here. You know what I'm saying? It's best that you're not here. So they split up basically, which is, what should happen. Okay, Felicia and Isabella stop living together. Felicia questions reality. So this is where Felicia starts questioning reality. And this is the part that I was talking about where it's like so bizarre to see Felicia, because I've never really seen this in one of these cases with these victims, where it's like, I don't even know how to say it, where it's like they start to come out of the fog that they're in, okay? And they start to question, was this real? Was this not real? So like, for example, and some of the things that Felicia will do, pardon me, she'll be like, I'm going to make something up. She'll start talking about, like, say, the poisoning thing and being like, well, yeah, okay, I remember one. Here's one. She's looking at pictures from childhood, the picture of her in a dress. And she'll be like, yeah, I remember we got that dress and, I was so excited about getting the dress, but then, and she'll stop and she'll be like, wait, hold on. That's Larry talk. I don't know if that's what happened. And then she'll start to recount the story and she'll say, Larry said this is what happened. And you're like, she doesn't know. Like she doesn't know. And you're just like, eh. And so it's so weird and frightening to see how it's like she doesn't know what her reality, she doesn't know what's real. She doesn't know what's real because this man has sat here and convinced her of anything. It's like, so for example, if you showed somebody your childhood pictures and somebody made up stories behind them and it's like, no, this is what really happened. You just don't remember. But this is what happened and this is how it went down. And you're been out for 3 days on Adderall, digging somebody's yard up and this and that. And you know what I'm saying? And they can provide this proof. You're going to start to go like, what? Maybe it did happen. And especially for her, where he's got her two siblings to sit there and operate, you know what I mean? And all and stuff and be like, yeah, that's what mom did. You see how I'm going with that? So you can see how this he could get those three to play off of each other. But so yeah, so she starts, thank God, questioning reality, and she starts speaking in those terms where she'll stop herself and be like, "Well, no, wait, that's something that Larry said. So the reality is, I don't know." Yeah, but then he asked her one thing about being poisoning at one point, and she's like, "Oh no, yeah, that definitely." And it was spooky, y'all, because it was like, because we all know it's like, girl, ain't nobody tried to poison nobody, okay? It's like, this is a grift he's been running on y'all for years at this point, and it never happened, you know. But she was still so convinced. I don't remember if he asked her, like, if we asked you if it was a possibility that your parents didn't actually try to poison you, would you say that's true? And you could tell it really made her stop and be like, I don't know if I can go that far yet. You know what I'm saying? Um, it really made her, it gave her pause, you know, to try and think. Um, so let's keep going. Okay. Felicia questions reality. Still believe. Oh no, this is what it was. She still believes that she might have met the senator or something like that, or her parents met him or something. Um, she finally makes it through, realizes he took everything from her. Okay, she had to share the bed with Isabella. So then you see Felicia make it to the other side where she's like, oh, whoa, bro, what the hell was that? You know, she didn't say that, but that's just me kind of summing it up, you know, where she makes it to the other side of being like, okay, that this guy stole my life from me. Like none of this was real. And this is when she starts really, you know, talking from an outside in perspective. And she's telling you the story of like Isabella and that whole vibe. And I'm like, that is so creepy. Oof, God knows. Okay. So then Isabella gets a job at Amazon. She's listed as a co-conspirator, still sounds just like Larry. So they're interviewing Isabella, and she's so confident, wants nothing to do with her family, her blood family, you know. And he's like, the interviewer's like talking to her. She's like, what do you mean about family? I have family. He's like, what about blood family? No. Mm-mm. Which, I mean, I get, you know, I get kind of what she's saying with that. Not for my own self, but I mean, I understand where it's like, well, some people might not have anything to do with their blood family. You know what I'm saying? So whatever. Um, but us knowing who she's talking about as her real family, I'm like, yeah, girl, he doesn't have your back. She gets this job at Amazon, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, but see, she doesn't think she did anything wrong. Because watching this, I was thinking this, I'm not gonna lie. For half of them, I was like, I would have had them blur my face out. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I was like, I would have had them blur my face out, y'all. I'm sorry. There ain't no way. You couldn't have water tortured some of this info out of me. Okay, I'm sorry. You couldn't have waterboarded that out of me. I mean, okay. So like Isabella, I'm like, girl, you got to go to work. You're gonna face these people with your face up on camera? No, talking about this stuff. Not knowing that Felicia put you out there like that. Girl, I would have called in sick the next day. I would have called out sick. She's in jail right now, prison. It doesn't matter. I would have called out sick though. Um, I'm just saying, yeah. If y'all caught me up on there, they would have had my face blurred out. That voice machine talking about hello. You wouldn't have known it was me, okay? You wouldn't have known it was me. Ain't no way I was gonna get up on there. I don't care what they were offering. I don't care what they were paying. Nope, I'm good. Okay, let me just keep going here. Felicia talks about it. Oh, okay. Felicia talks about staking out Claudia's apartment, extortion money, and Larry making the website about her confession. So remember how I was talking about Claudia and she's like making all that money escorting and stuff? And then y'all, I'm talking like over $1 million, okay? And then paying it all to Larry for like compensation for poisoning him. You know, well, Felicia was like talking about like, yeah, we went over there one night. It was like her, Isabella, and what's his name, Larry, and like they would extort money out of her, okay, and do this. And so then that's where they made that recorded video of her confessing to poisoning and all this type of stuff, and you could tell something was wrong with her. Well, then he like made this whole website about Claudia and put it out on the internet, and it was about her confessing to trying to poison them and doing all this stuff with this Bernie guy. See, what's his name? Larry thought by doing this and getting these confessions that it was like making it look like, you know what I mean? Almost like building a case for this against this Bernie dude. I don't think he understood. He was so lost or so sketched out on whatever he was taking, how sketchy it looked, where it was like, bro, nobody's believing this. Like anyone with any common sense will look at this website and be like, this girl did not do this. You know, like Claudia did not make an entire website talking about I tried to poison these people. Like it's just not even normal. We'll talk about the fact that the school got this open letter with the same vibe to it and nothing was ever done. We're going to talk about that in a minute when we're done with these notes. Okay. Felicia, okay. Isabella is arrested and charged. So she finally gets arrested. She is charged with some of these same crimes that Larry is. Felicia makes plans to see her parents. So then you get to see the full circle. She makes plans. Now, this gives me the goosebumps. She makes plans. She finally talks to her mother. They reunite. She reunites with her brother, but her sister at first won't talk. They go to the house and talk. The sister's like, yep, great, love you, but not now, can't open the door, not gonna open the door. Well, eventually they all reunite and they all talk and they all get back together, because for a long time they want to reach out. I mean, they had to go find each other again. They just went their separate ways and want to talk. And so like in the one scene where the sister and the mom go to the other sister's house, um wait, what was I gonna say? It was just like, I don't know how to describe it. It was like they had just been estranged for so long. It was so much had happened. It was just, and the sister inside the house that want to come out. She was like, it triggered this thing in me. I didn't know if she was still, is she here for Larry? Because you question your reality. Now, also, and I'm speaking for them, so this could be completely wrong, but I'm just looking at it through my own lens. The behavior that we saw in the documentary, this is just what we saw, so who knows what wasn't on camera, of the three siblings. There has to be a level of embarrassment. There has to be a level of, I mean, the things that he made them do, you know, and I mean, the abuse that they inflicted on each other and the lies and the this and the that and the how do we arrive here? You know what I'm saying? Um, that has to just take, you know, a while to get over and repair between a family and whatnot. Not to mention, pardon me, oh gosh, not to mention, um, the with the family, the mother and the father, right? Because remember, they all of them quit talking to him and were like running to them for money. The parents lost hundreds of thousands of dollars to this man. So there's that. Okay, pardon me. Okay. Excuse me. Larry is sentenced. So let's just get to this part. Larry is sentenced to 60 years. Isabella gets 4.5. His daughter is named as a co-conspirator, but was never charged. Now she disappears. You don't really see or hear anything of her in this documentary, other than the beginning of, you know, the this is my dad, he's going to come and all this type of stuff. Interesting that she was charged that, so it makes you wonder, because imagine that's your dad, right? I mean, she probably, how would you deprogram yourself from that? You know what I'm saying? Now what I want to do is I want to go over here real quick and see, where is she? Okay, I'm going to share the screen just so, number one, you can see a couple of pictures here. And we can talk about it. Please hold. Hey, 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 share screen. We're going to go to the New Yorker, the New York Post. Let me see if you can see what I'm seeing. Okay. Now, on the screen here, we have Isabella. We have Felicia. So on the left, we have Isabella. This is the lady who was sentenced to 4.5 years. She got 54 months. Felicia is the Santos's older sister, the doctor. I'll see if I can find a picture of her, what he had her looking like. And let's see, I can't see who that is. Let's see, let's go back up here. Okay, here it is. See what, dang, I missed it. It just showed it and then it went away. Sarah Lawrence, you know what, cult leader Larry, top lieutenant, sentenced to 54 months. That's all this is talking about. And then we just go down here. Now, y'all, look at this sorry picture. This is the kind of POS you're dealing with here. Larry Ray was sentenced to 60 years in prison in January. He claimed to have a seizure in court one day. This is in 2022. Look, can't roll my damn eyes hard. Makes me sick to my stomach. This is what you're dealing with. Knowing full well he was fine. Knowing full well he was fine. Cannot. That's an idiot. I mean, just an idiot. I mean, come on. God. Makes me sick. Okay, let's see what else I have. There he is. So there's like a mugshot of him. Ray collected millions of dollars by forcing one of his victims into you know what for a number of years. Okay, so there's that one. Now, where's the other one? Where? Let's see if this one's worth showing. No, that one's not that. Oh, let me show you this one. This is the original article that came out. And let me show you this one real quick. Boom, share screen, and stolen youth. No. Larry Ray, stolen kids. Yep. All right, here we go. So the cut by Ezra Marcus and James D. Walsh, The Stolen Kids of Sarah Lawrence. What happened to a group of bright college students who fell under the sway of the classmate's father? I don't think it has any pictures. It's a huge article. There's Larry. Huge article, y'all. I highly suggest reading it as it's very interesting. Now, this is an old article, meaning this was, back when kind of a thing. So, just know that it's not like recent, but it's kind of like one of the things that kicked it off when they started talking about, people were investigating and whatnot. That's what they're talking about right there. Is like this writer was like, what? Who is this? What's going on? So here's the things that this made me feel. Pardon me. So, like I said, I went back and forth watching it because, like, a lot of times these cult type things, you're like, how could you believe this, or how could you do this, or how whatever. Again, because these were younger adults and just the context of that, I could see it a little bit more. Now, let's for a moment flip back over to Sarah Lawrence, because this is where I'm like, yeah. Sarah Lawrence claims they did not have any complaints or anything like that about this dude, Larry, living on campus. Now, rewind back to a name that I brought up, Raven. Raven was one of the original friends. Now, remember, these kids basically lost all their friends, like true friends, because they talked to a couple of two or three people and Raven's one of them, where Raven was like, I started off at school, these were my best friends, and I couldn't even make eye contact with them, passing them on campus. Like, it was that weird. Well, another one of the dudes was like, one day that he ended up going over to the apartment because they wanted him to come. And he was like, why are y'all here? Like, why are you living in this man's apartment? Why aren't you on campus? Like, he saw it like we would. Like, you know what I'm saying? Where you're like, what? Like, he of course had no idea to the extent of what was going on over there. So there is that energy, you know what I'm saying? Of people were able to see this, but not this group of kids, you know what I'm saying? So there's that. Now, Raven, like I said, she was screaming from the rooftops. She says that she made complaints about the dad living there, because I'm sorry, that's creepy as hell. Okay. That's absolutely creepy as hell, especially because they were like, what were y'all thinking of him staying in Isabella's room? Well, he said that she needed extra help and that's not what? Huh? No. This is wrong on so many levels. So Sarah Lawrence says, oh, we didn't have this complaint, all this type of stuff. But I'm just like, now here's the thing. Go on and Google Sarah Lawrence. You see what comes up. So in fact, please help. Well, it's kind of normal right now. Maybe they kind of did their swept the little internet a little bit. Because I can tell you this much. Um, there, you Google Sarah Lawrence College, and a bunch of Larry Ray stuff was coming up. Anyways, so I have issues with that. I have issues with the fact that he was able to come get on this campus and it just go undetected and nobody say anything and it just kind of okay. Um and Alexander says, I wonder if he was paying someone off at the school. I mean, you have to ask these questions because again, and here's the thing too. Now, one thing again for me to see this and see how it went down and hearing the kids talk about it, it made a little bit more sense. When I say this, I'm talking about a hair. I'm talking a fingernails worth of more sense, which is barely any at all. Okay, because when you sit here and say, if you think of what you're thinking of right now, if I say a dad moved into the college dorm, you're like, how? You know what I mean? Like, how would that even happen? Okay, so then seeing this place, I was like, okay, this is more like an apartment complex geared towards students on the edge of campus. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a dorm. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of a thing. Now, I'm not giving excuses or saying it's okay or anything like that. Pardon me, but I'm just trying to make sense of like how that happened, how it occurred. And then the one student saying, "Yeah, we lived out here because it was kind of like on the edge of the woods. Nobody's going to be complaining. Security guards don't really come out this way." So you had that going on. Now, remember, they're not having crazy parties. The dad's not doing anything like that. And it was not, and they said it wasn't a structured thing of dad's moving in. And somebody said the thing of dad's going to be staying here 4 out of 7 nights. It sounded like he stayed there several nights out of the week. And then maybe he was going to this apartment that they ended up moving into. I don't know. The sofa thing, the apartment where he said he started off sleeping on the sofa, but then moved into wherever. The guy moved out, let him take over. So that's how I think that happened. Now, of course, if you're coming home and people would say things like this, like, yeah, I went up to watch a movie and Claudia and Larry were talking. And when I came back down 3 hours later, they hadn't moved and they were still talking and she was just transfixed, and he got her, and just she's part of his, belief system now or whatever. Um, um, so you kind of see how it's hold on, Roscoe has the hiccups. Go on, go get some water. See, you need to scare me. Um, you see how it kind of happened, but on the same note, like I asked myself this, I'm like, were any of y'all talking to your parents? But yeah, Natalia's dad's staying with us. There's just so many things that for me, I was like, how did this just what? Now, of course, obviously, as he would convert these kids to his belief system, he would turn them against their loved ones, their family, and whatnot. And, they would become the enemy. And so, again, it's that time of life where you're questioning things. You're typically wanting to rebel against your parents and your upbringing. And, you know what I'm saying? Like you're discovering yourself. And so when you have someone like that coming in, you know, that knows how to work the situation and manipulate you. There's that. So there were a few of them though that knew. I mean, they saw this behavior and like this isn't right, you know. So and Raven was one of those, and she just also had this really kind of cool personality. Like she wasn't gonna put up with any BS. Okay, she saw right through him like day one. You know, I mean, like day one, she was like, no, absolutely not. She was like, this guy, absolutely not. Okay, so there's that part. Secondly, like I've said before, of seeing these kids and these young adults and whatnot, whatever you want to call them, get up here and basically share their story from start to finish. And especially with Felicia, to where you see her go from start to finish, and part of that being the questioning of reality and then coming out of it. And it's like, whoa, you know, like, I mean, these people who fall victim to these like crazy belief system cult, type things. I mean, it's who they become. Like, there is nothing there, but that. And so, it just really hit home with me with her specific case in that. Um, then also Isabella, who that created this weird energy with me, because you could argue the same thing was going on there, but I also felt like there was something sinister with her. Like, it was almost like she went to the dark side. To Luke Skywalker, she moved to the dark side. The thing with her now, allegedly, she finally spoke out, whether at sentencing or in prison, saying that she was duped by Larry. Do we think that's true? Who knows? Is she just saying that for a lighter sentence? We don't know. Pardon me, because up to the very end of the documentary, I mean, she was pro Larry everything. Like, you can do no wrong. The only wrong you can do is speaking out against Larry. And so, you know, but watching her talk and all this, we were just like, oh yeah, she was Little Miss right along his little lapdog. Now, also, they said that because she was like, anything Larry says, it's the Bible, it's the gospel. She never really, like, how do you say it, got the brunt of his behavior because of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, because she was his right hand man, right hand woman, whatever you want to call it. She never got any of that from him or whatever. So she was like, partners in crime. Now, that being said, her upbringing, I mean, and I hate saying like somebody's broken or something like that. Like, she had a lot going on. Okay, like, when you saw the dichotomy and the demographics, if you want to, of her life and her trajectory, she was like someone like Larry's. I mean, like, his MO. Like, this is my exact person that I know I can get in and completely corrupt and switch around. I'm going to show them a little bit of love, a little bit of attention, and they will be eaten out of the palm of my hand, and they will do anything that I want them to. Because it's probably the only person that's ever truly shown this energy to them. Come here. Um, so, but and like the one person in there, and I know I said this earlier, but I'll mention it again, where they were talking about her, and they were like, seeing this person, a person that you're friends with, that had this, like, that was a really good person, and all that go out the window, and they kind of become this evil. Their like moral compass or whatever goes away, and and watching another person change that. And I felt like that's what you saw with Isabella, where it was like, now granted, you didn't see anything of her until later in the documentary. You heard a lot about her, but you didn't see anything of her really until the end, where she's just talking like, Larry's been wronged and this and that and blah 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 and da da da, and you know and you're just like, oh, whoa, okay. So this person started off as a complete recluse who just stayed in their room and was completely shy, and now we have this, of whoa. Um, and I'm just going to read a couple of comments real quick. So Dominique says, I think he just used her as a way in, and then he ignored her pretty much. Dominique, if you're referring to Isabella, or are you talking about Natalia? Because honestly, I think that, both of those could be said for that could be said for both. You know what I'm saying? Um, with Isabella, I feel like he used her as well, like for whatever he was using her for, which I think we can probably guess what some of that was. Um, I think that I don't know. That's what was so weird. I mean, I think that he probably used people for different things. Now, his daughter, Natalia, I think he definitely exploited her too in that way, where it was like, oh, I can use her to get into this place. You know what I'm saying? To this dorm, whatever you want to call it. And then, because you never really heard what was weird is you didn't hear that much about him and Natalia, you know, interacting with one another that much. You just didn't hear about it. Now, also remember, Natalia was dating Santos. So at one point they broke up. And once they broke up, she like went away. Like she moved out or whatever. And then you never really heard much of it again. But also remember, she was named as a co-conspirator, but was never charged. So I mean, that's kind of how they looked at it because again, she's the one who brought him in there. I mean, imagine how these people are going to look at her. And by these people, I mean her friends and stuff like that, her former friends. I mean, they're going to be looking at it like, this was your dad, and it'd be one thing if it was like, um, I mean, just from what I saw, she was just very pro her father. So, you know, there's that. The other part that was frustrating to watch, and this is from different perspectives, so kind of hear me out on this one, is so two perspectives. Number one of being like, oh my God, why didn't y'all do something? But then also knowing and understanding where this very particular point in life is, and that fear of if we do this, we might push them away for good. So where do you go? And what I'm talking about is the parents' relationship with the kids when they're going through this, because just about all these kids are getting turned against their parents. And so they're sending letters, they're doing this, and their parents like, well, what? And I'm thinking Dan's parents of this one part of, you go over to this guy's house and we can't get a hold of you. What's going on? We don't understand this change in behavior and all this type of stuff. And so it's almost like, well, damned if you do, damned if you don't, because it's like if we're sitting here and, number one, I mean, they're adults, right? I mean, they're legal adults. So they can make their own choices. Now, that might be like, well, mom and dad are paying for this or that. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a legal adult. They can be where they want to be for the most part, when they're not under their parents' roof. But also, it's like, well, if we push them too hard, but then we might not hear from them again, because Isabella never talked to her mom again. Now, I don't know if she has now at this point, but the Santos siblings, and they went however long without talking to their parents. They were convinced the parents were trying to poison them and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's what this guy was doing to them. So there's this one part where when you sit here, because they don't go into the amount of money that this guy extorted, like got from all these people and their parents, but it's a lot of money. Okay. I mean, what, several hundred from Santos' parents. There was other stuff along the way as too. I mean, this was his MO, was getting money from these kids' parents because it was like, oh, they chipped a dish and things of this nature. So that part right there was frustrating because you felt the parents' frustration, but then there's parts where it was like, and like the Santos parents were talking like they were so distraught. We just wanted to like make it go. We just wanted to help them like with the money and stuff. Cause I mean, they're like sitting here talking, I mean, draining their accounts and stuff, to try and help these kids. And you're like, the part that blows my mind is the part about him calling them up and talking to parents, talking about your kid damaged my property and owes me $10,000. And you're like, what did he break? Like, that would be so red flag to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, what did it, what? Like, it doesn't make sense. So that part was frustrating because, yeah, I don't know. And then obviously the level of just triflingness. I don't know if any of y'all have watched this. And God, what is the name of it now? Y'all help me out here. What's the one about the parents who live next door to the dude that, abducted in plain sight? Okay. Now, we've talked about that one so many times here. We're not going to do it like again anytime soon. But if you haven't watched it, go watch it, because very similar to that, where some of this, that one was so over the top, you were like, what? This one had over the top elements in it, but not like that one did. But some of the parts reminded me of this, like that next level, like, what are we watching? Um, I would say definitely read that article from The Cut. Definitely watch this. There's other documentaries on this. Again, that one dude, Dan, he wrote a book on it. I myself don't know if I'll read it, because this is one of those cases where, like, here, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Um, I almost am kind of like, I feel like I've had my fill of this case, if that makes sense. Just simply because it's so frustrating. Now like I said, he's in prison. He's never getting out of prison. He's right where he belongs. Hopefully, Isabella. Okay, now here's the difference. This is one kind of final thing I want to say. Watching this, where they start looking like they might be charging all these different people and stuff like that, Isabella was so far gone. I felt like, you know what? The prison thing might be her best bet to literally get isolated from this man and his thought process for several years to reprogram herself. Like, she might need that level of, like, she needs to go somewhere, because the things she was talking about, still believing, you're like, girl, that ain't how it works. Okay. So, anyways, y'all, I'm going to call it an evening over here. Now, look, before we go, though, let's talk about next week's. So we have Mother of God documentary. Love Has Won, The Cult of Mother of God. HBO series explores. Okay, so it's on. I gotta see how I can watch this. Now, I'm gonna share this so y'all know what we're gonna be talking about next week. Hold on. Share. I'm not talking about, do you believe in life after love? Okay, so Love Has Won, The Cult of Mother God. Love Is One, The Cult of Mother God. Love Is One, The Cult of, I've seen it 100 times. Chronicles the life and death of Amy Carlson, also known as Mother God, a self-proclaimed spiritual savior who built a cult through her online manifestos and live streaming sessions. Oh, sorry. As Amy's health declined, her followers believed her death would lead to her evacuation by UFO and salvation for humanity. UFOs sold were there. Told through the eyes of Amy's devotees and constructed from the cult's archival footage, the three-part docuseries captures the perils of internet proselytization and conspiracy-driven faith. Wow. Oh, yeah. Definitely watching this one. Definitely watching this one. I can't wait to watch that one. It's on Amazon. Okay, cool. I'm here. How's that? Okay, so that's what's going to be next Saturday. Same place, same time, same trashy channel. So that's it. Thank y'all for joining and talking. I greatly appreciate it. Be on the lookout for that. I'll try. I'm going to see if I can do a condensed version of this for the main channel. But I'll see. It's just crazy right now trying to get the house in order for family and everybody coming into town and the whole 9 yards and fixing stuff up. And it's been a rocky road. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't mean to yawn. But this was so much fun to sit here and talk about this, y'all. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to talk about the next one. So that's it. I hope you all have a lovely Saturday evening and a lovely Sunday and a nice week ahead of you. So that's it. Just be on the lookout. Thank you, Emily, for holding the fort down. I greatly appreciate it. Everyone send out a little round of applause for Miss Emily. And Roscoe says, hello, Emily. He hopes you're well. Anyways, I love y'all. I hope you have a good week. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a friend. We will talk soon. We shall see you